Welcome to Aurora Airwaves Season 2. I'm Jordan Bianchi, the host of Aurora Airwaves, and this is our first episode of the second season, entitled A Haven for the Heart. Aurora Airwaves has been a podcast about creativity with the underlying question, how can we take care of ourselves as we're pursuing our creative dreams? How can we be true to who we are and learn how to show up for ourselves? Aurora Airwaves has been my dream for so many years, and a year and a half ago I took the leap on the winter solstice to tell my story about healing, creative growth, and discovery, and learning who I truly am. And I've had such a wonderful time through over 30 episodes, sharing my reflections, meditations, stories, and conversations with many creative people that I know. When I was thinking about this season, primarily my conversations have come back to a single phrase. When we're stuck and we're not sure where to go, you look within and listen to your heart. You look within and listen to your heart. And that seems to be the underlying idea that connects to all blocks that artists and people who just want to create in their lives that they have. It's when we're not listening to our hearts, when we're not listening to the energies that are within us, when we learn how to let go and transform the energies that are blocking us, our shadows, we can become our true selves. We can understand what the self is, not the persona, not these ideas that we've constructed for ourselves, these masks that we put out into the world. So Aurora has always been about how can we get to the heart of what it means to be who we truly are. And so I'm excited to be exploring that in more detail this season. So for those of you who are new to Aurora Airwaves, it revolved around the simple idea, which was something discussed between the majority of my friends throughout my 20s, which is how do we care for ourselves when we're pursuing our art? Yes, we were talking about filmmaking and writing and painting and all sorts of types of artistic expression, but it came back to the fact that when you're going through it, it's incredibly difficult. And unless you have people that you can talk to, and you have people who have experienced other ways to reframe their mental capacities so that they can understand their thought patterns of where they're going, if we can understand spiritual ideas that can guide us to a place of meaning, if you're not exposed to that, it can be very lonesome and you can be stuck in the dark. And so when I started this podcast, it came really from my own real life experiences of being able to have conversations with people that I cared about. So if you listen to season 1, or if you hop back in now, you're going to see a lot of how I like to live my life, which is opening up my heart, showing my vulnerabilities, and trying to grow as a person. And the more I grow, the more creativity flows out of me. So before we dive any more into this episode, please do me a huge favor. If you're watching this video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe. If you're listening to this, please give this a 5-star review. This will help the show connect with many more people so we can all as a community heal and grow and hopefully connect with each other. So please, please, please like, subscribe, and review this. I really want Aurora to grow. Aurora has been my journey in learning how to live a happy, balanced life while experiencing the auroras of others. And these manifest as truths, passions, sincere moments, loves, joys. And I've learned so much from people sharing a bit about who they are and their journey and their projects. And it has moved me, it has healed me, it has helped me grow. I think the more perspectives we can bring into our lives, the more we can see that there are so many ways that we can live our lives. I've been exploring over the past year and a half, and a little break I've taken in between season 1 and 2, the myriad of colors of the aurora. And just as they're ever changing, they grow and they deepen in color. My perspective on what auroras are, what aurora light is, what the light is within, my perspective has changed and deepened, and I want to talk about that. Aurora Airwaves is incredibly special to me, and if you've been on this journey, yeah, you know this story, but it really launched a year and a half ago, as I said, on the winter solstice. And it was an opportunity for me to share the healing journey that I have been going on for the past 5 years. I was in my late 20s, almost 27, and I was coming to this place where I wasn't able to show up for the creative opportunities that were present, and I had a lot of beautiful opportunities. But there was something that was blocked. There were beliefs that I had that weren't working anymore, and I needed to change in some way because I was becoming more and more distant from my friends and my family. I was becoming depressed, and I was losing focus as to like what my entire meaning was in what I was doing. I loved being a filmmaker. I loved writing. I loved storytelling. I had been doing it for most of my life, but it was coming to a halt, and I didn't have anything else that I had crafted in my life to hold on to. So my pursuit of healing came out of really my cousin, who went on his healing journey right before the pandemic, and he started to share with me what he was learning, and I saw his beliefs change so quickly into inspiring, healthy ways of being that were just so foreign for me. But through him taking the time to share what he was learning, it got me on a path to understand that I could heal as well. What I chose to do next changed everything. I decided to go down the healing path that he went through. What I chose to do next changed the course of my life. I found the spiritual guru, and I followed in the path of my cousin, and I began to learn about healing, about light and shadow that's within us, and that everything that frustrates us about life and doesn't allow us to become who we truly are and go on the journey of understanding who we are is all just up to us. With some courage and eagerness to learn, I followed him on his pursuit of spirituality, psychology, and just growth, and how to become that person that I just aspired to be. And I couldn't really visualize what that was, but I knew it wasn't where I was now. What I learned is that while I love being creative, I am exhilarated by the journey of self-discovery, of healing and growing. This hasn't waned over the course of 6 years now, and it's why we're here today. In Aurora's first episode, I shared that the podcast came to be because of my idea of the Aurora, that I thought that if I could just see the northern lights, somehow just being in their presence, there'd be some spiritual or cosmic shift in me, and it would fix me. It would just do something to get me on the right path and to fix my life and to make everything better. And I booked a trip to the Arctic, and because of COVID, it didn't happen. So while I was stuck and I was landlocked and trying to figure out what to do, it became clear to me through this healing journey that nothing was going to save me. Nothing was going to magically show up in my life and make everything better. I had to be my own light. I had to be my own Aurora. And what I realized is that I didn't have to seek out the lights. When I eventually saw them last summer, it was wonderful because I had done so much healing. And what I learned in that moment is that it is the reunion of light, the fact that I was now letting my light out into the world consciously and being aware of it and seeing the northern lights in the sky. I knew at that moment they weren't there to fix me. Nothing was going to be changed because I had gone within and I had cleared enough of the gook, the shadows out, to let my light out. So with the way that I look at auroras is that they are here to provide inspiration, but they're here to be a mirror for who we truly are. And oftentimes we can only see auroras in the darkness, and that is okay. That is when light, especially mystical light, is the most clear and mesmerizing. And it's a reminder that the light that we seek, the energy that we want to become, has always been within us. So that is my journey to help you all remember this, know this, and implement this in your own lives, because it will not only help you become able to pursue the creative dreams that you want to do, but it's going to open up all avenues of your life. What I learned in all of this was that I was just desperately seeking connection. I was seeking connection to this greater force, this greater energy. But what I was really searching for was this connection to myself that I had lost, that I was able to see through creativity, but I wasn't able to see anymore. It encouraged me to go down this path of healing and growth, and to look at my shadows, which was a very important lesson, to look at my shadows as not other than me, to see that the shadows were me, that just as the night sky is dark, it also has light in it, and it is one cohesive unit. It is one space. There's light and darkness within us all, and the journey of healing never completely ends. You know, there's always more awareness you can get. There's always more healing that can be had, And that is a beautiful thing because it's about gaining consciousness, gaining awareness of who we are, and having the gift of seeing it in the grand multiverse, if that exists. Every possible version of you exists, but only you get to experience life and consciousness in this way. What a gift to be able to have shadows in your life because they gift you the opportunity to see the meaning, the value, and the worth of the light that is within you. I think the big thing, like I was just saying, is that shadows are who we are, just as light is who we are. And when we choose to look at the light that's all around us and then learn how to transform the energy that is within us that is not light, we can become radically different, healthy, healed beings. So this idea has been my anchor. It's something I think about every day. And the more and more that I talk about it, the more it just feels so true to me. Because I love to connect with people. When I fall into my shadows, I isolate and I remove myself from the world. And that doesn't feel great. I've spent so much of my life behind the camera, directing, making films, writing behind a desk, and those are wonderful experiences for me. But I stayed away from being in front of the camera for a very long time. And why is that? Because I was afraid of being judged. One thing that I always did as a kid was I would get overstimulated and I would what I call twitching. And I later learned just last year that it's called stimming, and it's a neurodivergent response to getting dopamine in environments where there's just overstimulation. Of course, I didn't know that until I was 30, and that's okay. But what a shock that these voluntary muscle spasms that they weren't happening involuntarily all throughout my life, but they were completely exhausting. It was a coping mechanism for me to realize that I was just overstimulated in many environments, whether they were environments where I was happy, where I was sad, where I was scared, or where I was just overly joyous. The stimming always happened in all sorts of different muscles, and I was really embarrassed by how that made me look because I knew people made fun of me for that, especially growing up. And it didn't go away even into college. There were always comments. So being on camera was something I wasn't even ready to do when I started this podcast. I recorded the first episode in my closet. I put towels on the floor so it would sound a little better. And I just, forced myself to record audio and get my voice out there. And it was lovely. It was wonderful. There was so much positive reaction to it. And if you're one of the people that reached out to me, thank you from the bottom of my heart. That gave me so much meaning and validation. But over the course of this podcast, I have begun to put myself on camera, and it has been so wonderful for me because I've seen how much I've been able to regulate myself better to avoid being overstimulated. I mean, even now, certain muscles are, stimming a little bit, but that is okay. And what I realized is that it's an excessive burst of energy of me just trying to be out in the world. In energy systems for the body, particularly the chakra system, they talk about the excessive and the deficient energies. And oftentimes the deficient energy is one that just can't get moving. It is so lacking in movement and vitality and cannot go up and down the body in the different energy pools. But the excessive is always just jumping around. When I was younger, I always just viewed it as I need to hone in, get my energies focused and aligned, and just, be disciplined and focus myself. But what I've learned is that is not my Aurora spirit. That is not my inner light. My inner light wants to color and run and laugh and be free and flow around. And you know what? That is exactly what auroras look like. An aurora is not a straight line. It is not something that is confined to a certain place in a certain way. And it is completely unpredictable. That is the beauty of when we look up in the night sky and see them. You never know what they're going to be. And there's so many different shapes and colors. Sometimes they'll look like they're on fire, and sometimes they're faint little wisps in the sky. That is the beauty of it. And I feel like that's the beauty of... For me, that's an example of the beauty within me. That I'm expressing... My body is expressing itself to me. And I am able to consciously understand that the way that I perceived myself was a shadow. But it's really just my body trying to communicate with me, and now I can communicate back with it. And I can see, what are my triggers? What am I trying to do here? What's too much? What's too little? So that's just one example of like what I've been trying to do, because I've been trying to connect so much to people. And this podcast gave me the opportunity to put myself on camera in a healthy way that was good for me. And now when I present myself in the world, I'm so much more, capable and confident and calm and focused. So I encourage all of you to, continue pursuing your creative pursuits in a way that makes sense for you. Understanding that there might be a huge project that you want to do, but sometimes taking that little step and then another little step can be the most wonderful thing, because you can take that restless energy that might come out in spurts in your body and your mind and your spirit and begin to put it out into the world. And over time, you can change the perception of yourself. You can change the perception of how you view your spirit and the possibilities behind that. And then when that happens, meaning changes. And now I view myself as someone who can connect with people. I don't have to hide behind my art to connect to people either. And that is a very important thing, because for a very long time, I thought that if I wasn't writing my fantasy novel, if I wasn't writing short stories, if I wasn't making web series and big podcasts and things like that, that I would be unlovable. That the world would look me over. And I would not only miss opportunities and ways to make money, but I would miss out on every opportunity for love and connection. And that was proven wrong a couple weeks ago when a little cat stumbled into my parents' backyard and bonded with me and my parents, and I was able to bring her home, and she is just so loving, and it has softened my energy. But there was nothing that I had to achieve to do that other than regulating my own energy, being calm, learning how to listen and be there for some other being. That's what this is all about. And I know that I'm going all over the place, but that's just how I kind of talk. So I'm so excited for this journey for myself, because I'm very eager to see how I'm going to grow. And I'm eager to hear how you're going to grow as well if you stay along for the journey. I think one of the biggest significant parts of learning about healing and sharing through Aurora in the past year and a half has been learning to accept myself, to accept my needs, to accept my limitations, and to accept a lot of the shadows that have gotten brought out. Every single guest has offered a view that has challenged the way that I think about things. And I think that's one of the most wonderful places to be. For me, Aurora is really becoming a journal of my journey of understanding. Not just how we can take care of ourselves, but how we can look at life, how we can find meaning in it. And a big thing is that I'm realizing, finally, that I am enough as I am right now. And, I think my ego has fought very hard to never allow me to think that. There's always something else, there's something to watch, there's something to learn, there's something to do. And the fear of just being is so scary. But what a wonderful shadow. What a wonderful thing to connect to. And I have to explore a lot of this myself. But in terms of rejection, in terms of trying to fend off people that might take attention away from me, to try to get attention from the people that I want to get attention from through creativity. These were lessons that I had to learn as a kid. These are things that I need to heal. So what a wonderful way for me to connect with my inner child and begin to grow again. So this is really wonderful, because I'm at this stage where I'm choosing me. I'm in my third decade, but I'm learning to choose me for the first time. And I'm learning how to look at the energy that's within me and treating it, instead of just fragments of light, but a beam of light, a path of energy that is going to go right into the things that are very meaningful for me. And that is Aurora. So I'm so happy to have you guys here for the journey of this season. When I'm blocked, oftentimes, as I was saying before, it comes from a lack of connection. And that means it's a lack of me not using my voice. For me to not use my voice, to not share who I am, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, I'm not connecting and I'm not growing. And I'm so excited to be building this community and to see how all of you connect to these ideas as well. Because I think we grow together, not just through my guests, but also through like you and I and how we're going to interact. So this entire season, we're going to be talking about the heart, and we're going to talk about creativity as well. But we're going to hold on to this idea that you look within and listen to your heart when you're stuck, when you're not sure where to go, because that is where the inner child lives, and that is where the masculine and feminine energies join together to support the inner child. What I've realized through this journey, and I've touched upon it already in this episode, but creating art is one of the colors of the aurora, and each color of the aurora is incredibly beautiful, but creating a life is all of the colors. And as we all know, many people can live lives and create lives that are not authentic to who they are. But through Aurora, we're going to discover what that means, which each of those aspects are all about. And we're going to hear through stories and through my reflections what that's really like. We're going to grow together. Because if you're listening to this, you probably are working on building a life that feels true to you as well. You know, you can easily get to a point where you work on healing so much that you don't work on growing. A lesson that I had to learn is that, yeah, like creativity is a wonderful thing, but to heal primarily to be more creative doesn't really work that way. One thing that can happen, and I've experienced this many times, is that the journey of learning how to create something often can go in the direction of learning how to heal. Most people, when they're seeking out the magician energy, which is the archetype of creation, tapping into the knowledge that very few have, pulling it down and making amazing things that change society, changes perception, does wonderful, beautiful things. A lot of people, when they start off on the journey of wanting to do that, that archetype becomes overinflated, and the archetype of the lover has barely been looked at. And so what a lot of people realize, especially men when they go on this journey, is that it's not that you have to work harder, push harder, do these things in a different way, or you don't know enough. It's that the lover within is not being nurtured, it's not being listened to in its masculine and its feminine forms. So when that starts to happen, that's when the healing can change. And yes, it's wonderful to tap into the magician energy to be able to create the things that you want to create, because the creation gives you an opportunity to see who you are. And that is amazing. But tapping into the lover and the magician and all the archetypes isn't just for creativity in the sense of creating art. It is about creating your life. And as I've interviewed so many guests, the conversations have all started with what people were into artistically, what they've been making, what they've been doing. But almost every single conversation went into a direction of talking about life and talking about how maybe creativity or their perceptions of creativity have influenced the way that they perceive life. So together, I feel like let's go on this journey of Aurora Airwaves to see that this light, this perception of growth and healing and being able to connect to the art that we want to make, how that can open up our heart and how that can connect to all of the aspects of who we are. That was a surprising thing for me when I went on my journey, and I still fall into this again and again because you can't ever just learn a lesson once. But I have definitely gone on my healing journey, as I was sort of saying before, to be able to write better, to have a higher output, to be able to go on the big book tours and direct huge films and do all these enormous projects. And, it's very easy to get stuck in that path of I'm healing for my output. I'm healing to have better work. But I'm telling you, you are enough as you are right now. The healing is for you to get awareness over who you are. It's for you to be able to see that you are lovable and loved the way you are right now, and that you're not alone. The feelings that you feel right now, if you are in the night sky and you haven't seen the auroras there, metaphorically, and you just can't see that light that's within you, please, please, please do not feel like you're alone. And do not feel like you're the first person to have ever experienced this, because you're not. We all experience these emotions in slightly different ways. So I want you to stick around to be able to hear the conversations of people that I've brought on, because every single artist has had to look within and understand who they are before they can create the things that they want to create and open up their lives to so many experiences. And what happens is when we open our lives to experiences, we are opening our hearts. And the only way that we can really open our hearts is by teaching our hearts that it's okay to be open. That's why we have to listen to our hearts. That's what we're going to be doing this season. So I'm so happy. If you're still listening to this, if you're still watching this video, I'm so happy to have you here along for this journey of what is becoming my life's mission. And I don't know where this is going to go, and I never have, and I might never really know where it's going to go. But it comes from a place that's true to me, and as I learn how to communicate that even more, I'm eager to have you along for this journey. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, and please take care of yourself. There's so many different conversations that we're going to have coming up. We're going to have meditations. We're going to do shadow work together. We're going to grow. I want to be able to give you guys the opportunities that I was given through my healing journey, through my spiritual guru, through my cousin, through the conversations that have just happened over all the years. This channel, this podcast is evolving into a place where I'm going to be sharing so much more about my journey and so much more about how you can begin your journey as well. And then what I'd love for you to be able to reach out to me and share how your journey's going. Share your questions, share your ideas, teach me, because I'm just growing along here as well. I cannot wait to see where the Auroras are going to take us, how they're going to change us, and how we're going to grow. 6 years ago, I had no idea that I would be where I am today, and I wouldn't have had I not begun to heal, had I not been getting awareness over my life and start loving myself. So I'm very excited for you to be able to do that as well. And if you're already doing that, let's do a little bit more. So thank you so much for being here. You'll hear from me soon.